Welcome back to another edition of Prime Sports World. On today's episode of The Prime, I'm going to give you my Week 1 fantasy football rankings. We are now just 24 hours away from the start of the football season, where the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys will be taking the field as we start to kick off the 25-26 NFL season. And this is our Fantasy Football Weekly show. Usually Israel Rivera usually joins me on these shows, but he's unavailable today. So I'm going to give you my rankings. Normally, I've been a little MIA because I've had to move to California and just kind of life kind of got busy. But I'm back now. I'm ready to break down fantasy football stuff for you guys and help you get your league set up right, get your team set up right, get you ready to go, rocking and rolling for week number 1. And as you're watching the show, if you have any questions about anything fantasy football related, please drop them down in the comment section. I'll answer any question that I'm able to answer throughout the show. This has been Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast if you like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World. Over 1,100 episodes into the show. So without further ado, let's get into our week number 1 rankings, and we'll start with them gunslingers, the quarterback position. My number 1 quarterback is Jalen Hurts. Going up against that Dallas Cowboy defense. Micah Parsons won't be walking through that door. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a very good game, both on the ground and through the air. Devontae Smith should play in this game as well. So Jalen Hurts is number 1 quarterback for me. I think he's going to have a monster game. Number 2 is Joe Burrow. He was quarterback QB1 last season, carried me to a title in this league that I'm in with a couple 50-point outings throughout the season. Joe Burrow going up against the Cleveland Browns team. Secondary is a little bit banged up. They're going to be throwing the football a ton because the running back situation outside of Chase Brown, not as good. So Joe Burrow is going to have a lot of pass attempts in this game. Baker Mayfield going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, I feel pretty confident that he's going to be throwing the football a lot, either through Bucky Irving through the passing game, Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, the new tight end, the new wide receiver out of Ohio State, Cade Otton. I think you start all those guys if you have them available to you, depending on your format of your league. 4, Jaden Daniels going up against the Giants. Dual Carter making his debut, but Jaden Daniels should have a good game. I'll be interested to see how they use Deebo Samuel in this offense. 5, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, it might be a little bit low on Lamar Jackson, but I think that's going to be an absolute slobber knocker of a game between the Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens. As you see, I have Josh Allen a little bit lower than I would have him on typical weeks. 6, Kyler Murray. I think that's a great matchup for Kyler Murray. He's got Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Marvin Harrison Jr. expected to take another step forward. That's a Saints defense I don't think is all that good. They might be the worst team in the NFL this season. So Kyler Murray in the top 6. 7, Josh Allen. Same thing I just kind of talked about with Lamar Jackson. I just think that's going to be a tough matchup, tough day at the office, given how good that Raven defense is. It's on paper expected to be. 8, Jared Goff going against the Green Bay Packers. I still think that Green Bay Packers defense can be had through the passing game. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Number 9 is Dak Prescott going against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're going to get down, so they're going to have to throw the football, and that's where Dak Prescott excels. He's going to have to throw the football a ton. And then 10, Trevor Lawrence going up against the Carolina Panthers. I think that's a pretty good matchup for Trevor Lawrence. Brian Thomas Jr., integrated Travis Hunter into this offense. So I'll be interested to see what this offense looks like and what they look like as an offense. But I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good game in week number 1. I know there are a lot of people that are very high on Brenton Strange. I'm not necessarily one of those people. But I do think he's going to be utilized in the passing game by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And as we transition into the back half of my rankings here, any questions you guys have about your quarterback situation, please feel free to drop those down in the comments section. I will answer those questions as we go through the show. To the back half or back end of this outside looking into my top 10, I got Patrick Mahomes the second. To go up against the Chargers, I'm not like he wasn't a good fantasy player last season, and so I have a hard time putting him any higher than this. No Rashee Rice for the first 6 weeks of the season. I think that's going to impact Patrick Mahomes' value just a little bit. And then Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not totally sure if Jalen Waddle is going to play, but Tyreek Hill is going to suit up in this game. You know, they have the wall, Darren Waller, not the tight end position, and I expect Devon Achane, if he plays, to be a big part of the passing game as well. But that keeping a very close eye on that Devon Achane status as we go closer and closer to kickoff for that team. And this has a lot to do with the Indianapolis Colts. I just don't think they're any good on either side of the football, on offense or defense. So I think this is going to be a game where the Miami Dolphins should have an easy victory and cruise to a very, very favorable matchup there for the Miami Dolphins. And then 3, Bryce Young. I liked what I saw at him at the back end of last season. You know, you add Ted McMillan now, you get a second season for Xavier Legette. I think that's going to be a setup that's going to be nice for Bryce Young. Chuba Hubbard's still there, still a productive player. The tight end, I don't remember who the tight end is, but it doesn't really matter. Bryce Young should have a nice season. They have a good offensive line. And this is a Jacksonville Jaguars defense, frankly, isn't all that good. I think, you know, they have all corners, real question marks. Defensive line is a big question mark. So it should be a good day at the office for a lot of the Carolina Panthers. If you've got them, start them. And then my stinking day is Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I just think he's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's got something to really prove this season. Essentially, it's a make or break season for Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise as a whole, because, you know, he was anointed the chosen one and hasn't really lived up to that hype, as TJ talks about all the time in this show. So I think it starts with week number 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, let me know what those quarterbacks. You got questions, drop them down in the comment section as I switch to transitions to those rock toters. I got my running back ranking. Saquon Barkley, losing Micah Parsons does not make your defense any better, especially not against the run with a unit that really struggled against the run last season. And you don't expect that to get better without one of their best players. Bijan Robinson is going to be a gadget trick all. He's going to catch passes out of the backfield. In PPR league, I almost like him even more than Saquon Barkley. I know in like pre-draft stuff, Bijan Robinson is the number 1 running back when it comes to running with like in fantasy, number 1 fantasy player. I'm not totally sold on Bijan Robinson. I know he was good last season, but I would still rather have Bucky or Saquon Barkley, at least in multi-season, like in a full season format. Give me Saquon Barkley over Bijan Robinson. But in this, I do think he's going to have a good game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Could be a high-scoring affair between those two football teams in the division there. And then going up to the guy he's going to be playing up against on the other side, Bucky Irving. I said in another show, I think Bucky Irving is going to lead the NFL in rushing yards. He's going to be the rushing leader this season. Bucky Irving should have a massive game. He was the best running back in fantasy once he became the full-fledged starter there in Tampa Bay last season. So I expect more of the same out of Bucky Irving. And he's involved in the passing game, so in PPR leagues, I like him even more. For Christian McCaffrey, so I live in, full disclosure, I live in San Francisco now, or actually in Oakland, but I work in San Francisco, and we cover the San Francisco 49ers pretty extensively at the station that I work at. But I think the hate for Chris McCaffrey has gone way too far against the consensus people in fantasy. I think, you know, he had one season where he was really banged up last season. I mean, the seasons before that, I know he was banged up in Carolina. It's most of the reason that the Panthers gave up on Christian McCaffrey. But I don't think that's going to be the case this season. I think he gets off to a really good start against the Seattle Seahawks defense that could really be had. Chase Brown, just his usage rate is going to be absurd, and I expect him to have a good game against the Cleveland Browns. Devon Achane, as long as he stays healthy, as long as he's able to play in this game, he should be a top 5-ish running back all season long. The dude's, he doesn't have to worry about really anybody else. I know there's Gordon on there, but I don't think he's going to have a lot of fantasy value. Devon Achane is somebody that I'm rolling the dice with in a lot of my leagues. I think he's going to have a monster fantasy day, especially going up against a Colts defense that I don't think is all that good. And then, in that same game, Jonathan Taylor, I think the Miami Dolphins defense on the other side isn't all that good either. You lose Jalen Ramsey. I know they got Minka Fitzpatrick back, who's one of the better safeties in the NFL, but I do not think that'll matter. I think that's going to be. Jonathan Taylor should have a good game in week number 1, and especially with Danny Dimes, the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. I think they're going to lean heavily on that running game. 8, Derrick Henry, the king, crown him. But I think the Buffalo Bills are going to limit him or try to limit Derrick Henry in that game. That's why I got him at number 8. 9, Kyron Williams. He's just going to be the bell cow there for the Los Angeles Rams. I know they have Blake Corum, but I don't expect him to be that heavily involved in the offense, at least not right away. Chuba Hubbard going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's a good matchup for Chuba Hubbard as he looks to continue his strong. He's been amazing the last season and a half for the Carolina Panthers. There's a reason that the franchise paid him the extension that they paid him in the middle of the season. I think that he's going to be the focal point of the offense, and he'll be involved in the passing game as well for Chuba Hubbard. Outside looking in, I know this is really low for Jahmyr Gibbs, but I just that Packer defense, especially in the front 7, I think that's a really solid unit. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs could be limited week number 1. 2, James Cook going up against a really stout Baltimore Ravens defense. Look for him to come down, have at least a little bit of a slow start. And then 3, Alvin Kamara. That's all they really have there in New Orleans. I know they have Chris Olave there at the wide receiver position, and they have Juwan Johnson, who's also the tight end there for the New Orleans Saints. But Alvin Kamara is the only guy that I have really any faith is going to be productive, at least not in week 1, at least in week 1, until we see what this offense looks like in a regular season game with Spencer Rattler as the starting quarterback with the new head coach. I'm going to temper my expectations for everybody in that New Orleans Saints offense outside of Alvin Kamara. I think he's going to still have his same sort of value for the New Orleans Saints this season and its game. As going up against the Cardinals defense, it's not that stout, not that formidable. I think he should have a good game there, either in the passing game or in the running game. And then my sneaky and daily guys, I got Austin Eckler. He kind of benefits from the fact that the Commanders traded away Brian Robinson Jr. Like a week ago, right before the start of the NFL season. He's at 4,800. I think that's pretty good value. I do expect him to be running back 1 when the season first starts. So I think it'll be interesting to see what his usage rate is, at least to start the season. Although the Giants should on paper have a pretty good running defense. Adding Abdul Carter to that mix, the linebacker core was pretty solid last season. So Austin Eckler, 4,800. And then Dameon Pierce. I don't know what to make of the Texans' backfield right now. I know they have Nick Chubb. I know they have Joe Mixon's on the PUP list, so he's going to miss at least a month. They have the rookie that they drafted. But I think to start the season, Dameon Pierce is the one who's familiar with the system. If I am rolling the dice on a Texans running back, it's Dameon Pierce. And 4,700 for a running back is actually fairly good value, especially if he's going to be the starter. They haven't announced anything yet, so I would be careful. If you have other options, I'd probably go that direction. But Dameon Pierce could be a sneaky play at 4,700 for the Houston Texans. And then to those pass catchers, I got my number 1 ranking. I got my number 1 guy there. Just a small spoiler. This will probably be my number 1 wide receiver for majority of the NFL season with Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals, the Triple Crown winner. Also helped me win a fantasy title in a league where I had the stack of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. If you had that last season, you're probably polishing off a trophy because that combination was lethal last season. Number 2, I got CeeDee Lamb. I think the given the situation with the running back situation in Dallas, I expect that team to be a football team that throws the football a ton, and CeeDee Lamb should benefit from a majority of those targets. And then what may seem like I'm really high on a player, but Brian Thomas Jr., if you watched the show that we did last Thursday, I predicted him to win OPOY, Offensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to have a monster season at the wide receiver position, and I think he'll be the catalyst for what is a pretty solid Jacksonville Jaguar offense this year. Their offense is probably going to have to carry this football team because I don't think their defense is going to be any good. And so, did I spell Brian wrong? No, I didn't. Okay. This looks weird. But yeah, I think he has a massive game going up against the Carolina Panthers. I know J.C. Horn is going to probably be locking him up one-on-one. But I think Brian Thomas Jr. is matchup proof. We saw that last season. It didn't matter who the quarterback was. It didn't matter who they were going up against. He was awesome last season. And I think that continues with what should be improved coaching and should be improved quarterback play. I mean, he had Mac Jones throwing touchdowns to him last season or trying to. Probably had Tim Boyle at some point because the guy just continues to be in the NFL. And then for Drake London, I think this is going to be his big breakout season. I know he broke out a little bit last season, but I think this is going to be the one where people are like, yeah, this guy's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And, it starts with the game against the Buccaneers. I don't think their pass defense is all that good. So look for Drake London to have a solid game. A.J. Brown going up against the Dallas Cowboys. He's probably going to get a lot of Trayvon Diggs one-on-one coverage, but A.J. Brown is bulletproof, matchup proof. So give me A.J. Brown in my top 5. And then a little bit of shocking, I got Justin Jefferson at number 6. A lot of the rankings that I was looking at when I was putting mine together had him at number 2. I just think that's too rich for me. I think the Bears have played Justin Jefferson tough over the last couple seasons. Jalen Johnson is one of the better corners in the NFL, and I think he's going to do a pretty solid job of just kind of shadowing Justin Jefferson, looking over. And I'm not sold on J.J. McCarthy at the quarterback position for the Minnesota Vikings. It could be one of those seasons where Justin Jefferson has a down year. And for a down year, I mean, we're talking 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. So I think Justin Jefferson could struggle coming out of the gate here. J.J. McCarthy didn't play much in the preseason. Justin Jefferson didn't play much in the preseason, also dealing with a bit of a hamstring injury. So I think it'll be interesting to see what his usage rate is in week 1 and how successful this Vikings offense is without Sam Darnold, with Jordan Addison now being suspended for the first 3 games. Somebody's going to have to take up that target share and pick up, otherwise they're just going to double team Justin Jefferson for the entire game. And I don't think that's a recipe for success with the Minnesota Vikings. From there, I got the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, for the Detroit Lions. I probably should have Sun God actually flipped over Justin Jefferson, now that I really think about it. I just think the secondary for the Green Bay Packers is not all that good. And I think that if you're going to beat Green Bay, it's going to be through the passing game, assuming they can block that, what should be a really stout front 4 and front 7 there for the Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons not coming over there. 8, Malik Neighbors and the New York Giants. He showed he's kind of matchup proof, what should be improved quarterback play, improved offensive line. Malik Neighbors at number 8. Nico Collins at number 9. Probably a little bit too low on Nico Collins, but going up against a Rams team that has a really stout front 7, with going up against a Texans offensive line that's not all that good. So look for Nico Collins to still be good, maybe over 100 yards, but I don't think he's going to have one of those virtuoso performances, as he likes to talk about. And then Puka Nacua in that same game going up against the Texans. I fully expect Derek Stingley Jr. to be locking up Puka Nacua, who's a very, very good corner, underrated in the league. But he's still in the top 10. He's still going to be that guy. And if Matthew Stafford doesn't play, I probably have Puka Nacua even lower than this, given Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett are the backups. But I expect Matthew Stafford to play, and I expect Puka Nacua to be a top 10 wide receiver this week. And then my outside looking in, I got Mike Evans for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, old reliable. Tyreek Hill, also old reliable, going up against the Indianapolis Colts for the Miami Dolphins, especially with Jalen Waddle dealing with some sort of injury. I think Tyreek Hill is even more valuable this season, or at least for week number 1, than I would be if Jalen Waddle was available in this matchup. And then number 3 is Zay Flowers, somebody that I'm really high on going into the season. I own him in a ton of leagues. I just think that he's going to take that big step forward this season for the Baltimore Ravens and really cement himself as the wide receiver 1. And I also don't think, because of the other talent on this football team, I don't think you can double coverage Zay Flowers. I know D-Hop is getting up there in age, but he's still a very productive wide receiver. And then, I know he wasn't great for Kansas City. Everybody thought that was going to be a slam dunk signing when they made it, but he just really didn't have that big an impact on them last season. I'm all in on Zay Flowers. I think he's going to be a really dynamic player this season. I think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver when the season's all said and done. Zay Flowers will be wide receiver 1 that you could start week to week and get 15 plus points from Zay Flowers at the wide receiver position, especially in PPR leagues. I like him even more, playing him in the screen game. So sneaky and daily, I got you Jaden Higgins, wide receiver for the Houston Texans. He is no question pass catching option number 2 there for the Houston Texans, as Dalton Schultz has kind of been Bobby Schultz's cousin. Dalton Schultz. Sorry, I didn't mean disrespectful there. But yeah, 4,800, I think he has immense value. And I think this is a Houston Texans team, especially what's going on with the running back situation. This is a Houston Texans team that's going to have to throw the football if they want to really be competitive, at least until Joe Mixon comes back, whenever that is. 4,800 for Jaden Higgins I think is a slam dunk. I roll the dice on that every single time and twice on Sunday, which conveniently enough is exactly when this game is happening. And then I got Ricky Pearsall at 4,500. Wide receiver 1, I do believe, when the season kicks off for the San Francisco 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, not going to play. Marcus Robinson, suspended for the first 3 games. Juwan Jennings is a game-time decision. Doesn't sound like he's going to be able to go. I think to get a guy who's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in an offense that's going to throw the football for 4,500, I guess there's George Kittle there as well, who's going to take a big portion of the target share. Also with Christian McCaffrey as well. But I think 4,500 for a wide receiver 1 is really crazy value. So let me know what you think about these wide receiver rankings. Let me know what you think about that Ricky Pearsall take. How valuable do you think he's going to be this season? I think he's going to be a fringe top 20 wide receiver when it's all said and done. I think he's somebody that you're gonna be kicking yourself for not drafting a season before his ADP. I think he was going in like the 7th or 8th round. He's going to be a guy who's a top 20 wide receiver some weeks for the San Francisco 49ers. At 4,500 in week 1, that's easy money right there. And as we go through the show, if you have any questions about rankings, have any questions about matchups or, trade requests, if you got a trade, you want me to break it down for you, I will absolutely do that in the comments section. So please shoot that stuff to me. This is what we do here at Prime Sports World. We're just going to try to help you guys win some jelly beans this season, as we all try to get some jelly beans when we play fantasy football. And if you have any takes on any of the rankings that I put out here so far this season, the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, if you think I'm too high or too low on a guy, let me know down in the comments section for sure. I love that kind of interaction. To the tight end position, to those bulkier pass catchers, Trey McBride at number 1. He's going into an offense that I think is going to take a step forward this season. Trey McBride is going to be a big catalyst on that with Kyler Murray there, with Marvin Harrison Jr., a little bit better offensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. Trey McBride is pretty bulletproof when it comes to the tight end position. He was the number 1 tight end, I think, in fantasy last season, and he only had 1 touchdown. If he gets in the end zone more, like he's going to have a historic fantasy season. So Trey McBride is number 1. 2, Brock Bowers had a historic rookie season for the tight end at the tight end position. With given what's going on with the Raiders, I mean, Jacoby Myers requesting a trade, Trey Tucker. I know they just brought in Amari Cooper, but he wasn't good at all in Buffalo last season. And they have Trey Tucker going into his second season, but he didn't really have the impact that many people thought he'd have in year number 1. So Brock Bowers, I think, is going to be in this top 1 or 2 for majority of the season. Number 3, George Kittle. Looks healthy going into the season. Just looks really motivated and really like he's the most technically sound tight end in the league right now, given what he does for the blocking game. I know you don't get points for that, but I think George Kittle he has to be now pass catcher number 1 with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel either hurt or not there anymore. So I think this is going to be a good season for George Kittle, and starts in week number 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. And then 4, reliable as well, Travis Kelce. He always seems to show up in these Charger games. I think he's going to have really good numbers, at least most of the season. But in week number 1, for sure, I think Travis Kelce is a must start in all formats. 5, Mark Andrews. He's going to try to redeem himself from dropping that 2-point conversion in the AFC divisional round against these Buffalo Bills. I think he's going to be super motivated to play and be, because there was a lot of conversation about Mark Andrews as the season went on, about talking about who's the tight end that you want in Baltimore. Was it Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews? And when the season first started, Isaiah Likely was the guy you wanted for that Baltimore Ravens tight end position. And as the season went on, Mark Andrews became more and more a factor in this offense. And as Mark Andrews got more involved, this Ravens offense really took off. And so I think that they're going to want to feature Mark Andrews as much as they can for the Baltimore Ravens. And number 6, I might be really high on the next 2 guys, actually. But number 6, I got Tyler Warren. I don't really love any of the pass catchers for the Indianapolis Colts, and I expect Tyler Warren to have a really big role in this offense right away. I think he's going to have 5 or 6 targets. He's probably going to, hopefully, maybe he gets in the end zone, 80 yards and a touchdown, with 5 or 6 catches. I think that would be a really good day at the office, and I think that would put him nearly in the top 5 when it comes to tight ends. I'm really high on Tyler Warren as in general for this whole season format. because with Danny Dimes, with this offensive line not being all that good, I think they're going to have to be they're going to have to do a lot of checking down. They're going to have to make a lot of dink and dunk stuff. And Tyler Warren should be perfect for that kind of offense in that system. And then 7, Evan Ingram, he was awesome 2 years ago for the Jacksonville Jaguars, was banged up for majority of the season last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's now going into Denver, a really good situation for Evan Ingram. Look for him to be a damn near 1,000-yard receiver again at the tight end position. Evan Ingram I think he's going to have a monster season for the Denver Broncos. 8, Sam Laporta going against the Green Bay Packers. I think he may potentially have to do a little more blocking than originally projected. But Sam Laporta should be, he's a top 10 for a reason. He's a plug and play. If you drafted Sam Laporta to be your tight end, you're playing him no matter what. You can make the same argument for the next guy too. T.J. Hawkinson going up against the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. He was coming back off that injury last season, but he still was pretty productive when he came back off that injury. We're not that far removed from T.J. Hawkinson being the number 1 fantasy tight end either 2 or 3 years ago. The talent's still there. I'm still concerned about J.J. McCarthy, but if you have a young quarterback, giving him a surefire tight end like T.J. Hawkinson is a good way to protect your young quarterback. And then Tucker Kraft, he took a massive step from year 1 to year 2, had over 700 yards receiving, became tight end 1 there for the Green Bay Packers, and he really became kind of that secure safety blanket for Jordan Love. I think that continues this season. I think that's a tough matchup against the Detroit Lions and that linebacking core, but I think Tucker Kraft should have a good matchup and a good season for that matter. And let me know what you think about my tight end takes. If you think I'm way high, way too low on anybody, please let me know down in the comments section. And my outside looking in, I got David Njoku. These are kind of all 3 guys. They're just kind of old reliable guys. David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns, especially now that he's got Joe Flacco as his quarterback. They seem to have a really strong rapport 2 years ago when Flacco took this team to the playoffs. Hunter Henry, he's kind of that security blanket for Drake May there for the outside looking in. And then Jonas Smith is now in Pittsburgh. Even though Aaron Rodgers throughout his course of his career, he hasn't really been a guy who's relied on his tight end a whole ton. I know there was a couple seasons here and there where he had Richard Rodgers and the other guys, his name is totally escaping me right now. But I think Jonas Smith is going to have some good value there for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the tight end position. And then my sneaky and daily, I got Bretton Strange. People are really, really high on Bretton Strange and that Jacksonville Jaguar offense. 3,300 is a pretty good value for a tight end who's going to be tight end 1. Should have an opportunity to really break out this season. So we'll see what happens against the Carolina Panthers. And then Tyler Higbee. We're not that far removed from Tyler Higbee being somebody who was super viable in Tennessee. I know he had the ACL tear and only came back late last season and didn't really have the impact many people thought he'd have last season, but he's still a talented tight end, and he's still the best tight end that they got there for the Rams. So Tyler Higbee, 3,400. I think you can do worse at the tight end position if you're looking to save some money and spend money elsewhere in fantasy. And then finally, I got my defensive rankings. My number 1 defense is going to be the Denver Broncos. That's going to be a trend that probably carries on a lot this season, but going up against Cam Ward and a rookie quarterback, a team that has a stout defense as the Denver Broncos have, I think there could be moments where they make him look like a rookie who's making his first NFL start. 2 Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm just not a believer in Justin Fields and this Jets offense, even remotely a little bit this season. So I think the Steelers, given they gave T.J. Watt the bag, they added they added Jalen Ramsey to their secondary. This should be a Steelers defense that is a plug and play, a must start every week, no matter who the matchup is. Obviously, there will be exceptions there, here and there, but Steelers, that defense should be loaded. And this might be a hot take that I got the Arizona Cardinals at number 3, but I have no belief and faith in that New Orleans Saints offense even a little bit. I think that this is going to be a Cardinals defense that's going to play well, at least in week number 1, going up against a bad New Orleans Saints offense, because we're going to see what Spencer Rattler has. I was very high on Spencer Rattler when he came out of college, but he didn't really show me a whole lot last season, and this team got worse in the offseason. So good luck to Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shook, whoever ends up being the starting quarterback at any point this season for the New Orleans Saints. And then the Philadelphia Eagles at number 4, a little bit lower on him than the consensus, but going up against Dallas, I think Dallas is going to score points. I could be talking to myself into having like the 49ers ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles, but the talent's there. I think they're going to get after Dak Prescott. They have two pretty good corners. So go with Philadelphia at number 4-5. San Francisco 49ers going up against Sam Darnold, who didn't play a whole ton in the preseason. Also, they lost DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And I think they lost Noah Fant, too, at the tight end position. So it's going to be a totally revamped offense for the Seattle Seahawks. So I think the 49ers can take advantage of that opportunity, even though they have crazy injuries in their secondary, with Hufanga no longer being there, Trey Greenlaw no longer being there. But they still have Fred Warner. They still have Nick Bosa. Should be a good opening night for the San Francisco 49ers. And then by outside looking in, I got the Commanders going up against the Giants and Russell Wilson. The Patriots, going up against Geno Smith, making his first start for the Raiders. And the Dolphins going up against Danny Dimes and the Indianapolis Colts. It's just like all three of those defenses should have a good day against that matchup of those quarterbacks in new places. The only one that I'm not crazy high on in that I just mentioned is the Patriots, because I think Geno Smith, they're going to throw the football a lot. But they did spend a bunch of money on free agency, and they got Christian Gonzalez, who's probably a top 5 corner in the NFL. So Patriots, number 7, I guess, at the Patriots from my outside looking. And then my sneaky and daily, it's Miami Dolphins at 2,700, bringing Minka Fitzpatrick. I think that's an upgrade over Jalen Ramsey, and they should be able to really stifle this Colts offense. And it's only 2,700, so I think that's pretty good value at the defensive position for the Miami Dolphins. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me here at the 2025-2026 Fantasy Football Rankings for week number 1. We are going to give you guys our rankings every single week. So please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast if you like what we're doing here at Pine Sports World. We're just going to continue churning out content. We're going to continue trying to get you guys in good positions as you kind of navigate the fantasy football playoffs and that football season. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. I, of course, am David On Point, your host. This has been Prime Sports World, and we bring the heat. And don't forget to please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And if you have any questions about anything fantasy football related, please drop that into the comments section. I always love hearing from our fans and people that watch our show, even if it's just a one-off thing. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Y'all have a good night and stay safe. And good luck in week number 1. I hope you guys all bring home W's. I'm hoping to bring home W's. I'm in 4 leagues, or 5. So hopefully I have 5 W's when I come back here next week. Talk about fantasy football. You guys all take it easy and be safe out there. Peace out.